Check, test. Test. Am I having any sound? I wish I would be able to do this with music, but nope. You should be able to hear any water if I'm not talking. That means the audio is working. I really don't like talking to myself all that much, but if you got any questions, like, don't hesitate. I'll try and pay some attention to the chat and answer those. I'm trying to do here is connect these pieces of wall together by trying distinguishing the line patterns in the ground, but sometimes it's really not very detailed at all, and you have to be very persistent in following all of that stuff until you run into another fort that confirms that what you were actually looking at is a wall and not just a road or somebody driving through the desert for hours in the same line. At some points it's very obvious that it's a wall, and at some points you're really just looking at lines on the ground. Let me see if we can... Yeah. Bit of perspective. Oh, look, that could have been a little fort here. I'm not sure, it's very small. And then technically it's on the outside of the wall. Look, circles, squares. That's definitely like the remains of a little village. Copy, paste. There we go. Sorry, just had to share some of the links. I was trying to go for the section where you can actually see that this is a wall. Let's get out of this desert first. There you go. Okay, there you go. That shows it a bit better, where you can see one of these little bastions sticking out. yeah, stuff like this makes the work pretty easy. And then you run into blind spots, so you try to connect it up by just following the most logical line through the land. Thanks, that's much appreciated. Obsessive with the realm. Yeah, I do like tend to focus on bits from time to time, like stuff gets boring. And that's why you have a whole lot of empty spaces where I haven't worked, like in South America, Africa, Australia. I'm pretty sure there's interesting stuff to be found in Australia. It's just not confirmed to most of the stuff that we know and do. And there's probably pattern recognition to be found here as well. That's a mystery place to the whole world still. Let's get back into the walls. And it all connects up. I don't know about the exact history or anything of the Chinese walls and the story they tell. I'm literally just a guy mapping out stuff. I see stuff, give it a little marker, and people way more interested in the actual history than myself can sort that out. I just like mapping. Looking for a connection between the two. And that's the work I do. Derp. Show some walled Chinese cities. It's pretty much like the Star Forts. There's a moat around them. It's just a different way to build things. Let's see, where's that really big one? Is that Nanjing? Yeah. The red lines. Hey, let me put that off. They marked the sections of wall that the city deemed restorable. There's a whole, and that's a big wall. Look at the cars. City gates. Yeah, I have mapped out a bunch of the pyramids in China. I'll go over those in a sec. Yesterday, OBS gave me this perfect little chat window that I could maneuver into the Google Earth, but today that doesn't seem to be no sound on the right, so it's mono. That's weird. Let me have a look at that. Why would it be mono? That's really strange. It should be in stereo. What? I don't know. Anybody else like seeing that, or like seeing that with your ears, hearing that like it's only one channel? As far as pyramids go, all of the little white triangles you see appear here are pyramids. We'll have a zoom in a sec. No, as far as I'm aware, and this is purely what I looked up, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an authority on any of these things. I'm just good at pattern recognition. That's really strange. I'm going to look into that after this. We'll just record this as is. Was that the same in the previous episode? I might have done something to my settings accidentally. Going back to what our story asked. No, I think they're aware we're seeing these objects. They just choose not to do anything about it. In the case of these, the Chinese pyramids, we'll have a zoom in at those. They just tell you literally that they're not going to do anything about these. They're not going to investigate. That's the official stand of the Chinese government at current. It's up to future generations to find out the importance of these things. And in the meantime, they bury them in earth and grow trees upon them, which sort of ensures the destruction of said pyramids, because tree roots ruin a lot of stuff. You just go to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, completely overgrown city, which is interestingly just as square as the cities we find here in China. There's a whole bunch. They just have flat tops, which is well, somewhat reminiscent of what they have in Egypt, right? The top is missing. But fields and fields of them. Small ones, big ones, some are as big as your head. Which is interesting if you look at the amount of pyramids that I have marked out, and well, you can pretty much rest assured that there's a whole bunch buried here, gotten rid of, built over, and whatever. And then you look at the amount of pyramids that they have uncovered in Africa. I find it interesting that all of the significance regarding these pyramids is always going to Cairo, basically. Whereas there are far more Chinese pyramids, there are far more South American, Central American pyramids, and they seem to hold little relevance whatsoever. It's always going back to those three things outside of Cairo. Yeah, the UK. What should we call it? The British island? I don't know. Whichever you favor. It's full of stuff. There's so much interesting stuff to be found, which just sort of tells you that England, as such, only ever focused on their big city, right? It's London. And the current state of the UK isn't all that great, apart from in London, which technically the city of London isn't even part of the UK. It's a separate country. And the rest of the UK is going to shambles, really. It's a shame. You see a lot of videos on YouTube about these people on the west coast of the United States. Birmingham in the United Kingdom is not all that different. It's a shambles. It's a shame, really. What people, well, I shouldn't turn to this whilst mapping, but it's a shame what people let do to themselves by their evil governments. There, I'm ending that rant at that, and let's go to some stuff on these maps. Alaska is somewhat interesting in that at some point it used to be Russian. The Russians sold it to the United States for a measly sum. At some point, they even offered Kamchatka, this peninsula, for a 60-year lease, because the Russians weren't intending to do much with it. And then the Americans were like, no, we don't really care. Another interesting thing about Alaska on old maps, Alaska is mapped out. Like, you've got really old maps that have this in pretty decent detail. You can see all of the shapes on these old maps, and yet the far east of Russia is not on maps. It's just not on there. They just make stuff up and fill it in. What can I share about the South Wales? Not a whole lot in my direct memory. Let's see if we have something. Well, you know, there's a bunch of forts, especially around here. Let's put the markings on again. Pembroke. And you can even have some of them. As you can see, they're for sale. Some of them might have been sold at this point, because when I started filling these in, that's a good while ago. I've been doing this for 5.5 years. Maybe even 6. But yeah, it doesn't really look like a star fort until you look at these little points here, and you got the bastion. And then keeping in mind it's only a battery type fort. And this one, if you look at this, look at the general shape. I'm pretty sure we have something very similar in St. Petersburg. Or near St. Petersburg. Modernized, restored, unlike the one in Pembroke. similar of shape. Back to, oh, back to the close to the forts. That's nice. That's how I got into this whole thing to begin with. My source initially was Colm Gibney. I think he's from Ireland, if I remember correctly, but he lives in France. And this man did an amazing job. Like, his file, as far as star forts are concerned, is not as numerous as mine, but it's a treat to go through if you have a Google Earth, and mine is not. He has detailed information. I'm pretty sure his file is available somewhere. If you look up his videos, I'll type his name in the chat. If you look up this man, I'm pretty sure he has a link to his file where you can check that out. He has 1,500 star forts, mostly mapped in Europe, and mine is far from just star forts. There is a whole bunch of towers in these. There is old Moorish castles on this as well. I started it out with, I want to map all of the star forts, and then I started adding more forts and more forts, and I slowly got into Asia. And initially all of this stuff, it's not on now. Let me turn that all on. There you go. All of these were stars as well. I remapped them into the squares they now are. Then I have to do the same in Japan, which has an enormous amount of castles and palaces and walled structures, but only 5 actual star-shaped forts as far as I'm aware. Sorry, I have ADD, so I get distracted by myself even. We were showing the stuff in South Wales. You can buy that one, Bev. It's for sale. An actual star fort. Pembroke Castle. That's the small ones. It's all little batteries and remains of bunkers, because you can see this is nothing more for... If you're on the ground with this, all you will see is literally just a bunch of mud, earth in the shape of a little dike. And this is the foundations of the old fort, I reckon. Let me see if the Wayback Machine shows us a little bit better. You can see a bit more of the shape. It's a pointy thingy sticking out. So this is probably a gun battery or a cannon of sorts set there. Hey, that's nice. That's good and detailed. You can even see some of the defense walls, because no, it's not just the Chinese that built big walls throughout for their defenses. It's everywhere. If you look at this one, it's exactly the same shape as that one. This one just got an extension. There is a video on YouTube. I couldn't tell you the maker of the video, but if you look up Pembroke forts. I'm pretty sure you're going to find results for it. They added a whole battery section here, which is not present for this one. They had cannons. From the looks of it, they had cannon here. And there. Perhaps there. It always sort of makes me wonder, right? The range of these cannons. I don't know anything about the range of the cannons they used back in those days. But it doesn't seem very effective to like use small little forts to defend yourself from huge invading fleets, especially if huge invading fleets could always just land somewhere else where there is no fortifications present. It's sort of like anything else that is worth showing here? That's a remains of castles. Yeah, it's what I mean. I have castles, forts, all kinds of stuff on this map, and it's all labeled with forts. That's why I suggest to, like, if you want to have a look at the star forts of the world, which is what a lot of people show up for, just download Combs file, and at some point I will release this, but it needs organizing. It's a mess. Let me see what Carl Spitfire. There is 3 mounts by me in Stoke. They're supposed to be coal mine boots. Is that Stoke? Let me see if that gives a. We could have a look-see, Carl, if you have any, like, Forest Park, thanks. The enchanted forest, full of pixies and magical things. Oh, so those are the mounts? Those grown over. Yeah. Let's see if we can have a. That's back in. That's 21 years ago. Not much I can deduce from above that I can see, but I would not, like, at this point hardly anything surprises me anymore. Like, the cover up of things is a very true thing. That is, like, I'm not going deep into theory anymore like I used to do. There's a lot of that stuff on my channel which you're free to watch. But I don't do it anymore because I just want to focus on the mapping work, which is what I enjoy. And going deep into theory usually leads to a lot of conflict with people that don't agree with you, and I don't like that. So I'm sort of the mind, if you want to give this a theory and work it out, feel free to do so. I'm willing to talk about it, but I'm not going to argue with you that it's true or not, because it's your reality to begin with anyways. Let me see. This is not stars, but this is something I did a while ago. For Ireland, circle, fairy circles is what they call them in Ireland. Let me show you an example. Usually they're a rough circular shape. It's not anything exact. But as you can see, and this is just the parts I worked at. Some credit goes to my ex, who did a lot of this work as well. Fairy circles. Like, and connected with a line even. Some bigger, some smaller. Let me see in chat if there was any other things that I missed. How is the sound? Good, apart from it being one channel, which really weird to me. Let's see. No, good. I heard some people heard it just on one side. I wouldn't know. The settings are for stereo, so it could be a YouTube issue. From my side, it seems to be good. Let's go back to these Chinese walls, and if any questions show up, we'll have a look-see. I do intend to do this on a regular, since it's working, and I'm doing it anyway, so if you people are watching, it could be like sessions where you won't hear me talk because I feel the need to listen to music, and well, YouTube made it utterly impossible to do that unless it's copyright free, which, sorry, I don't like copyright free music. And I make some music of myself, but then you'd have to listen to drum and bass. for the duration of my work. This could be something. Well, it warrants a mark. Not sure if it is a fortification, but in that case I'm giving it a black mark. A black mark, and that makes me return to it. Sometimes Google updates their imagery, and you get pictures from different years, and that shows you a better image. Again, for people not familiar, dark blue stuff is cities, green is fortifications, big and small, purple is towers, light blue is a city that used to be walled but no longer is. There is some evidence floating of it on the web, or I have an old map of it. That's why you see a lot of light blue stuff with the star forts as well, because I use pretty much the same color schemes. Light blue stuff I have a map of, or there is evidence on the internet of it being a fortified city at some point. No, I agree, Beth. There's nothing wrong with drum and bass, but people's opinions do tend to vary. I don't think there's wrong with any music, really. I said I don't like copyright-free music, which is not really true. I just don't want to cater to the ridiculousness that the music industry has become, or has been for so long. And that all sort of start with, like, way back in the day with Napster. Like, artists complaining about the fact that they couldn't make any money, and the only artists complaining about that were the ones already fat, rich, and wealthy, because independent artists are the only ones you should support in that fashion and help them out, because big artists, they have their record contract, they made their millions, they just want to make more off of your Spotify plays and off of all of that stuff. More money, more. So if you play a little bit of my music, I want your money. All of it. Give it to me now for playing my music, for supporting me as an artist. By playing my music. Now I still want your money. Sorry, rant number 2. I like these. These finds really make me happy. Stuff in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It's been turned into a swamp by nature over time. Because these could be as old as BC. That's what the official wiki on the Chinese state sort of says, that before BC, so that is pre the Mongolian hordes, pre the Chinese conquering as much as they have of China, they had more than 4,000 walled cities, and most of them got destroyed during the reformations of Mao Zedong. Now, I don't think Mao went into the freaking desert to destroy this. This is just done by nature. This is just natural erosion taking place. But yeah, lots and lots of cities just got demolished by the reformation of the communists. And they probably did the same to many. Well, Germany was pretty much subject of two really big world wars, flattening everything they could. The same for France. Ohayo gozaimasu, Anthony-san. But this doesn't even change much throughout time with the Wayback Machine. That's what I wanted to show. In 2010, it already looked like this. And that doesn't change much. It's a shame we can't go back any further. It's that's a matter of Google Earth. They take pictures from you and they give pictures to you. I've noticed that Google edits this thing at will. There's no notifications of updates of pictures or anything. Every once in a while, you get a little questionnaire. And, how do you like Google Earth? And I'm pretty much always negative, because every single update, and that's not just with Google, but I don't want to go into rant number 3. Every single update just takes functionality away. You used to have a whole section where you could change the borders of just the countries, the provinces or districts, the states, and you could switch that all on and off. And nowadays it's just borders and labels, and that's all you get. You borders, labels. And if you zoom in, you get the district borders if you want them or not, which takes loading time and all of that stuff. But yeah, Google takes away functionality with each and every single update they do. So no, I'm not happy with Google Earth. It's just the only free means of mapping stuff out. And I don't know if any of the other mapping programs actually work with the same file format as Google does. And as you can imagine, I really don't feel like doing... I don't know how many markers I have on Earth. I really don't, and I don't want to do it all over again. That's as simple as it is. The idea of remapping all of this into concise stuff, like castles, star forts, and all types of stuff that people built all over time, is already sort of intimidating, because it's more than 15,000 star forts. Or I should say star markers that I have to change into the correct ones. Because a lot of countries have star forts. That is undeniable. Again, if you go to Colm Gibney's work, I cannot give the man enough credit. His work is fantastic. Look it up. Absolutely worth watching. Any questions before I resume back into a dive on connecting some walls? I'll give that a minute whilst I provide myself with something to smoke. The water you may hear in the background is my fish tank. There is absolutely nothing I can do about that. If you need to take a pee, I'm sorry. I've been at this for 50 minutes again. You see, that's how I do hours of this a day. And this is just talking about it. I'm not even mapping things out at this point. Atlanta. That could be. That could well be. Let's have a look see at the states. Keep the borders back on. Atlanta has and had. You can go and visit this one. They don't even mark it out. Oh come on, you can sort of see it, right? The triangular shape. Let's see if we can get some better views. Nope. Not there. I think this is the remains of a battery. It's a yellow marker, so might not be a whole lot to see here. There is a lot of pictures here. I'm not going through all of that, sorry. I think this is just an earthwork, but this is something you could visit and actually see. Like I explained, most of the fortifications, especially in the Civil War, were earthworks. So just a whole bunch of dirt stacked neatly on top of each other. And yeah, Fort Gilliam. That used to be a fort at some point, but you put an old air base on top of it and sort it. So yeah, going back to your question, if Atlanta could have been a fortified city, it does look like, let me show. If you look at this shape, let me draw that out. In red. Right, you see this shape? It looks a little bit like a slug or a hedgehog, right? So remember this shape. We'll leave it on for a second and get back here again. Is that in the... yeah, okay, good. I'm gonna go back in a sec to look at Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon. You see this shape with the ring road around it? Doesn't that look like that same sort of hedgehog that I just showed in Atlanta? The Pentagon was your citadel, and this was your fortified city at some point, possibly way back before colonial days and whatever. And if you then look at cities in Europe, you get similar patterns. Let's see if we can find one on the top of my head. Been a while. Well, there you go. Let's see the shape of it. There you go. You see the old bastions here in the triangle shapes. So you just draw a line of those bastions around. This is where the citadel sat. You can even see that by the name. Citadel Wesel. So they just destroyed this, but they left the star shape somewhat intact. And you got another little hedgehog. So yeah, as far as your question goes, could Atlanta have been a fortified city? Yes. Very much so. I'm more than willing to give it a black marker on the map, as a matter of fact, just by that shape. I don't know, because I don't have an old map of Atlanta. If you do, or have access to, or can take a picture, please do so, because, you know, that's more uncovering of history. But there you go, there's your hedgehog shape again. So your citadel could have been the hotel district, it could have been here, it could have been outside of it altogether, Mechanicsville, maybe Sono. But yeah, this is downtown Atlanta, and downtown is the old city center. So it does fit. But then they didn't always adhere to the quote-unquote hedgehog style. Like I said, in Europe I needed to look for one, and I found one pretty quickly. That's luck. That it's not all hedgehogs. But Colm Gibney, again, praise the man for his work, has a video explaining a lot of those shapes and patterns that he started recognizing and mapping out. And he was the reason for me to start doing this to begin with, because of the city I was born in that has a bunch of fortifications. There you go. I live right across from this one, and I had absolutely no idea it was a star fort. I just saw that on Colm Gibney's video, and I was like, what? I lived across from that as a kid? And I knew about this being a fort because the army had a base here back in the day. This was Navy, this was Army, and then this is the naval base, which I suspect at some point was fortified. All of this is new build land. But yeah, that started me off thinking, like, if this man has 1,000, there's gotta be more. And well, yeah, he's up to 1,500 now, and it's probably further up, but he hasn't done updates in a long time. But still worth looking at again. So yeah, Atlanta could well have been a fortified city. Georgia. Fort Hawkins. Probably a walled, an earthen wall with a wood fencing on top of it. And perhaps there were bastions on it, and perhaps there weren't. I don't know. I just map stuff out. Hey, no problem. That's I love doing this stuff. That's why I said if there's questions, just ask. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that one mapped out. Yeah, and as impressive as this is from above, it's small in the in the perspective of things. And it's funny, you walk around there, and this actually like gives you like a sort of an impression of size, because you still have these walls standing. You walk into this, like, what would you call it, a courtyard, but in the scale of things, it's a teeny tiny little thing. Anything on South Africa? Yeah, I have a couple in South Africa. Um, Let me see. I'll switch this stuff off because the file is so big, it makes everything slow. Bloemfontein. There it is. Alright, gee, right next to these cooling towers. Well, that's unmistakable, man. That's definitely a star. Yeah, that. And get some. There you go. Yeah, Cape Town is definitely most obvious. That is a standout. Um, this one leads me to similar thoughts of the one in Peru, Lima. They say the Dutch built this. Oh, I'm going into theory here, but they say the Dutch built this, and then the original was destroyed, and then they rebuilt it again. So the original sat here at the harbor. They rebuilt it again, but is part of Cape Town then part of that hedgehog that I just mentioned? Is it part of one of the animals? They Colm Gibney named them after different animals. One of those, and they just destroyed most of Cape Town, the old Cape Town, for that, or did they just build a castle? But it looks like Lima, which has the citadel still living. And the rest of the city is completely destroyed, as in the old Star City, by a tsunami. So the citadel, here is South America, is here. Just for a scale comparison, let me see if I can find, yeah, this traffic, better view of it. Yeah, that's a bit more detailed. Cars. So this one bastion is pretty much as big as Fort Pulaski is, for a size comparison type thing. And the old city of Lima, where was that? Here, Centro Histórico. Now I have to look up. Nope. Map. There you go. So on Google, I would have to turn that all the way around. And you see the Centro Histórico and Barrio Quinta Jerén. And there's your old map. But all of this was apparently destroyed in an enormous tidal wave. And the only thing of Lima after that still standing was the fort. That's the story they tell you. It's a story. Yep. So yeah, star forts all over Earth. Let me put them all on there a second. There we go. See, it makes it slow and ponderous. Rome is one of the interesting ones in that Castle Sant'Angelo was built 300 AD, according to the records again. As far as the preserved forts in the Netherlands go, angle number 2 with that, I'm not denying what you're saying. Angle number 2 with that is the Netherlands were neutral in World War One, which was, as far as destruction goes, pretty devastating for the neighboring countries, Belgium, France, and Germany. And the Netherlands was smart in World War One. We had the only ever existing legal royal cocaine factory. So the Netherlands supplied all of the World War battlefields with coke. Cocaine for the soldiers. But then cocaine was part of the medicinal trinity of cannabis, opium, and cocaina. The Dutch grew cocaine on a massive scale in their Indonesian colony. It's the reason, part of the reason why so much of Java, the main island, has been deforested. Because you need a lot of cocaine leaves to make cocaine. And oh yeah, the world wars, I couldn't agree more. Were to destroy evidence. Yeah. Get rid of a whole lot of stuff. And especially if you look at the country that, by my reckoning, had the most star forts, being Germany. Italy being a close second, maybe even first. But Italy built a lot of stuff on hills that doesn't allow for star-shaped bastions, which immediately gets your doubters out. Like, oh, well, that's not a star fort. Well, if you don't need the bastions, or you can't build the bastions and you still want to build a wall around your city for, well, whatever reason you want to think of, you forgo on the bastions and you still build the wall. And tunnels, yes, tunnels. This even from my grandfather, who used to be a munitions officer for the Navy. He told me as a kid that tunnels connected the forts in the city I was born in, which is the prime naval city for the Netherlands. And the funny thing even is, if you go on a tour through that fort that I used to live across from, the tour guides, I saw a video of this, I laughed so hard. And stuff like this does make you doubt their whole narrative. These tour guides were some probably explicitly instructed to tell the people that there was no tunnel connecting these two forts. This small one and this one, because it's impossible, because this piece of land here is underwater. What? So it's and you can't build tunnels underwater. Evidence of the Channel Tunnel going from fucking Britain to to France. But you know, you couldn't possibly build a tunnel under this little polder here. It's just not doable. It's hilarious. But yeah, so tunnels connecting all of these fortifications, as so told by my grandfather. Another thing he told me is the reason this city can expand, and he told me this as a kid, so my grandfather died when I was 10. It's a good long while ago, so make of this whatever you want. He told me that the reason the city can't expand is because there is a enormous underground basement south of the city. Now, it is somewhat convenient then that the former naval headquarters of the Netherlands was here. Former Navy headquarters Netherlands, translated from Dutch. Navy headquarters, middle of a field. This field is full of antennas, varying sizes and constructions, and there's bunkers all the way from the coast to the other coast. Military airport close by, and then this city town is expanding because it's south of those basements and you can expand there. Hey, good on your grandfather. This country is this country is insane when it comes to industry and building stuff. We're crafty people. We really are. And that doesn't detract to any other of the other people in the world, but yeah. All of this land, 1960. This was sea or lake at that point. All of this land, but you can see the blue line here with the star forts. It's funny, that used to be the coast. So all of this built in the 40s during World War II. All of this land, you can see sort of this. This used to be an island. You can see the outline of it. There's a canal here. That used to be an island. All of that we got from the sea. Most all of these, let me put the folder on where I have marked some of these old lakes out. Where is that? There you go. Old lakes. All of these different colored things, they were all lakes. and you can, by the shape of the fields, you can see how old they are, as in when they turn water to land. This is really old. This has been there for hundreds of years. Both of these towns, Schermerhorn and De Rijp, give it a nice English accent for you. They were whaling towns. They sent their ships through the lake and then into the sea, because this was sea. All of this was sea, and then we dammed it off with what was until very recently the longest dike on Earth. Sixty something kilometers long. They built one in South Korea that is a kilometer longer. No cheating. Florida's a really interesting thing. Place. Where does the soil come from to fill? No, we don't fill the lakes. We pump them dry. So what they did and still do to the day, they built a dike around the lake. So this is the city I live in, and this green line is the old outline of the lake. So they built a dike around that, a big seawall basically. Which, if we take a quick view on street, I can show you. There you go, it's just a little elevated dike. And behind that sits the canal. So they built a dike all around the lake, and then they put windmills, and they start pumping all the water out. And that's how you create water from the sea. And it's the same what they did here with the blue line. I showed you that earlier. This was an island. Then you build a dike, and then you put windmills along it, or steam engines in the case of some of them, and you pump all the water out. You pump it into the sea. The whole airport sits on a dry lake bed, basically. Schiphol. Another thing that shows you as well is the fortification ring around Amsterdam is far younger than the Fort Amsterdam, because these forts, they run straight through what used to be lakes. Okay, the city of Purmerend sat at the lake, at the Beemster Lake, and they traded over water with the whaling towns of De Rijp and Schermerhorn. And the moment you close all of that down, you build canals and stuff around it to get rid of all of the water that rains in, and you keep on pumping. And they swap the windmills. There you go, the windmills for automatic pumping stations, and initially steam and then electrics. And that's how they still get rid of the water. Yeah. The cities were like this is replying to Freeman, who has a 1615 map. Most of the cities in 1580 were fully developed, and that's correct. Hoorn was there, Medemblik was there, Enkhuizen, Alkmaar, Haarlem, Edam, Monnikendam, Purmerend, Amsterdam, possibly Beverwijk. I'm not sure if that was there, because that's set on the edge of a lake. And it has some interesting structures going on. Castles as well. But yeah, most of these old towns that you see along the old sea, because you gotta again discount this whole province here, and there that wasn't there. This is made in the 40s. This was made in the 60s. There's plenty of photographical evidence of that. So if you ever find a star fort map that shows you this is a star fort, it's baloney. It's a load of wank. It's nonsense. We do still build modern star forts, so I'll get back to you with that in a second. But like all of the stuff around the coastline, all of those cities were fully developed, but with the exception of that came from the sea. This is a dune created by the massive current that flows out of this sea. It's a very low-lying sea into another low-lying sea. So these are created by the tidal currents, and so was this heap of sand, and they started building upon that. This was there, the little village of Huisduinen. That shows up on really old maps of the Netherlands. Like, and this is basically the end of the world. I don't know about steam engines. I do know that. Let me see if I can find that quickly. Kroekjes. There you go. This one. This is an old steam powered construction turned into a technology museum. This is one of the 3 pumping stations that they used to empty the Haarlemmermeer, in which Schiphol sits. So that could definitely be like what you call an old world building. But then it's only as old as the plans to turn this lake into dry land and build towns and an airport. Plug holes? Sorry, this is another question by Freeman. What would you think the plug holes in the corners of the star forts are? I don't know exactly what you mean by plug holes. Let me have a look, see at one that is intact, which is actually quite hard in the Netherlands. They modified so much of these, turned it into their fancy and adjusted it a little bit, made it a bit more functional, etc, etc, etc. Yes, this one brings up another one. This one is fancy because during the 1953, I think, storms in the Netherlands in which a lot of people died. Was it 53? Yeah, it was 53. So a lot of people died, and then they decided to build massive floodworks to prevent that from happening. But when that happened, the mayor of this town ordered all of the people that lived in this newly built part of the town, he ordered them into the Star Fort. And I think of what was then available, what was then living outside of the city, only 2 people were stubborn. They died. The rest of the people were safely inside of the bastion walls that never flooded. So, smart on that, Mayor. But that led me to think about the one that everybody loves and everybody knows of. This one. Let me tell you a little bit about this. It's fake. They rebuilt this. It used to be a 4-pointed star fort at some point in time. And it used to be a taxation into the Netherlands from Germany. And then they let it sit for a good long while. It turned into fields. And only little bits remained. And then a giant project came along to restore all of the fort in its former glory, and I think they went haywire with shit. Because this is all new. It's not a spectacular thing. It's not tied to any geometry or whatever you want to lay to this. It's new, it's modern. Sorry. Myth busted. But I'm still wanting to know what you mean by the plug holes, because I am interested. Antwerp. Yeah, Antwerp. Antwerp is fascinating. Let me turn off borders and labels again, and I have a look-see at Antwerp from above. Doesn't that sort of like somewhat resemble a golden spiral of fortifications? Towers in 2 kilometers every ring. You have that mapped out or anything? Because I'd be interested in watching that. Because the fortifications do a spiral. It's a shame. Antwerp is another one of those cities that looks like a hedgehog. There's your old citadel. I can show this on a map too, but for now. There's your surviving bastion. And then a whole bunch of fortifications around it. One sec, I'll be back in a minute. Obligatory bathroom break. Alright. Yippee-die. 2 kilometers as the crow flies. Yeah, it seems they and that is like part of the pattern recognition thing. They hold within certain distances of each other. Even more so in Asia. It is uncanny, almost. Okay, everything becomes stubborn when this whole file is running. There you go. It's almost uncanny, the distances. If I find a section of wall, it's usually because I find one of these little squares. And then you find a line, because you cannot distinguish this as being the Chinese wall. I mean, nobody working in these fields, if they wouldn't know, is aware that this is the Chinese wall. There's not a fence around them, nothing, but yeah, you start following that line and all of a sudden, hey, there's another one of those squares. And you follow it. Heck that, there's another one. And then you zoom out a bit and it's like, hey, that's pretty uncanny. So I'm sure there is the remains of something here, because it doesn't fit. This distance is too far. Especially because there's mountains in the way. So there's something, the remains of a tower or something should be sitting here. It's just not there. I haven't found it. Could have been here. The Chinese do take a lot of, I'd say, tools to their old stuff to make new stuff. It's like, it's almost like it's a country where certain people care about it and certain people don't care about it. It's almost like they're people. Almost. Not sure. But it's the same for people everywhere on Earth. I'm not sure. Are you people? Yeah, it does look like ancient mining stuff. Yeah, you follow sections along it and you get to run into these little towers. Like I said, again, it's these squares with a little tower on top of it. And they're everywhere. And not always are they actually tied to a wall. I found out that recently. All of these purple ones, they're just towers, and they run from city to city, from fort to fort, from city to city. And I think this is just a means that the Chinese used, or the people living there would be a better description. The people living there used as a guidance means. Like if you see the one tower, you can always see the next one, so you know where to go. Because this is hilly stuff. This is harsh landscape for people to travel through from city to city. But if you have a neat means of guiding you, right, you see the one tower, you can see the other one, you see the next one, the next one, the next one, and if you just follow the towers, you get to the city. Ta-da! But not before you pay your taxes right at the wall. I'm just making shit up here. I don't know what they're for. I don't know what they're used for. Were they to keep the barbarians, as they called them, from the north out? I don't know, were they a means of keeping large animals out, as the movie The Great Wall suggests? That I find actually more interesting, in that like a horde of crazed beasts would just charge, right? At anything, and if they charge into a wall, well, that's sort of where it ends. People are like way more cunning, in that like they would find the gaps, which are everywhere, because there's some mountains in these places that you just cannot build, and no matter how hard you whip a slave to build these things, you can't. We got Ahura in the house, Mr. Pancake Fun. I've been down the rabbit hole as far as 2001, when two planes did not fly into two towers. One plane did not crash into a field in Virginia, and another plane did not fly into the Pentagon. And that's where I fell into an enormous rabbit hole. You're the first one to mention, though. You just know that I have an aquarium in the background. But I did tell the people. If you have to take a wee, I'm sorry. I cannot stop it. There's no way. There is a small waterfall in my fish tank, and that's the sound it makes. Any questions? Any It's a big rabbit hole. It's a big rabbit hole. As far as speculation goes, I mean, if there's no questions, I'm just waffle a bit. Let me see if this still has a decent picture. What is this? Why is it square? It's just an open question. I don't think there is any answer to it, because it's you can't go here. It's impossible to reach. Well, what is it? It's square. It's very unnatural, and it's not a photographic error. Unfortunately, they took the most detailed picture of this place away from Google Earth. But the funny thing I find with this one is this is square, which is unnatural, and then the whole mountain top is just flat-ish. Could be anything. It could be nothing. That's why it's black. I don't know. It's speculation. Any new finds today? No, I didn't do much finding. People had a lot of questions, and that led to going places, which was interesting. Which is interesting. We're still at it. I'm not done. Probably go for another half hour, which probably just flies by, and then we're an hour ahead again. But Square Hill, like, yeah, it is a very quaint sight. Let's zoom in on it again. It's square like it's square like most Asian cities are. Again, the old cities, I mean. And it's just in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I mean, if we put roads on, There is not a lot of roads in here to begin with. Is it not loading? Should have roads here. Yeah. No, we're not going to show roads. That's only small roads that already disappear the moment you zoom out too far. That's roads. Anyways. There's no roads here. Like, if we zoom in, no roads show up. Not even, like, small known tracks. And you'd have to track through miles and miles and miles of Siberian tundra and forest. It's pretty much completely undoable for any but the extremely wealthy among us. What do you think the purpose of the diagonal lines drawn that come to several focal points on a 1500s world map? The diagonal lines. You mean like the zoom out a bit. I think I have something that approaches the well, what do you call those geomagnetic lines? Where though? So much stuff. Meridian lines? No, this is just me making drawings of time zones and stuff. Which is interesting, but that's not what you mean. Ley lines. Thank you, Dana. Dina? I'm bound to butcher some of your names, and I'm very sorry. Ley lines. I do have a file somewhere that has ley lines in it, but it eludes me at the moment. No, it's not in megaliths. No, no, no. Nazca lines. Hey. That's strange. I'm pretty sure I had it somewhere, but apparently not at the moment in my Google Earth. Probably in some of my files on the PC. The one thing I can't tell about ley lines is they don't work on, regardless of what you believe of the shape of Earth. I don't trust NASA with I don't trust NASA, period. I don't trust them. But this particular ball does not work with ley lines. Because Google takes a flat projection map and then spans that around the globe. So what you get is the anti-meridian. I've learned what this white line on Google Earth is. This ever persisting white line that whatever Google updates come along, this line persists. Why? This is where Google folds a flat image around a ball shape. This thing continues on all over the map. You can literally follow it all the way to the South Pole. And that's what happens when you span a rectangular map around a globe. So, yeah, regardless of what you think of what the shape of the Earth may be, this ain't it. This ain't it. So, somebody made the file that I got has the ley lines on it, but they worked with the coordinates the ley lines are supposed to be on, and that doesn't work out on Google Earth a lot of the time. Have you seen, let me back to the question, purpose of diagonal lines. Sorry, so Aurorian, sorry, I don't know exactly what you mean with that 1500s map. If you have a name, let me see my world maps. I have a bunch of those, so we can go and have a look-see. Does that? Yeah, that's the screen share, so that should work. 1500s world map. Diagonal lines. Is that something like this? I'm gonna wait for the answer for a second. The chat has a bit of a delay. A Spanish map. All right, so not a world map per se. But so these are pretty much just the meridian lines. That's not what you were looking for. Unless that is what you mean. Otherwise, I have too many maps to go through now to look for one particular 1500 Spanish map. If you have a name, I can have a go at it, but okay, so next. Bearing lines to destinations. I don't think I've seen any map like that. These line would converge to some place in the ocean or on land. That sounds like old shipping maps, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna leave that in the middle for now. Sorry. In what point am I enlightened? All right. Let me see. Spanish map that had drawn lines. Yes. Round and flat, not a sphere. I don't know. I theorized for a good long while, and that was just to satisfy my weird ego, that it's a skull. We're on the inside of an enormous skull on a circuit board, so it's not necessarily like a human skull on a circuit board. And what we're looking at from the inside is the dome of the skull that they conveniently filled with all kinds of pretty colored lights. What you call it? ARGB lit LEDs. And at night they turn them on. Ta-da! And you can fly into space through the eye sockets. And there you go. And the sun and the moon are just like really intense lights that float around us, and that sort of like shows that whole flat earth model that I find interesting, with the how they show how summer and winter works, and daylight and nighttime and stuff. So I just started like fabricating that in my mind. It's skull, and that was pretty satisfactory to me. It doesn't really matter at all. And that is what I find so funny. Like, people will go into heated arguments about the shape of Earth. I don't trust this one. I really go as far as that. I don't trust this. It makes very little sense to me what science is trying to tell us about this stuff. But what did I want to say? It doesn't matter. We're not getting off of this place anytime soon, are we? If you can get off of this place, it's only for the Elon Musks of this world, the very, very rich, to go there. So what does it matter anyways? Does it? Shouldn't we like look for a way to manage this place in a little bit more civil way than we have gone about for the past couple of 100 years at the very least? I don't know. But that's about that for the shape of the Earth. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I'm not getting off. Even if they came about from space and the aliens land, oh, we've got a peaceful place for you to go. Well, go then. I'll stay. Look at this place. It's gorgeous, beautiful. I'll stay and visit all the sites that I've seen from above, instead of going to some random place that I don't even know about. What, you want me to map star forts out in space? No. Okay. Questions? Chat. Let's see. Twiley, hi, by the way. I didn't even acknowledge you earlier. Good to see you. How the ley lines would look on a flat map. There is a projection somewhere on the web, if they haven't removed it, that shows that on a flat map, the ley lines turn into a flower of life pattern. Which is pretty cool. I don't have that image though, so I can't like conjure it up for you. That is pretty cool. State land management. Skip school a couple of times to go up and Lancer. That's awesome. That is pretty cool. Earthquake areas on the map. I can show you a little bit of that by flicking this one on. I've got a map with a whole bunch of volcanoes mapped out. So let's just go over that a little bit whilst I look for some more questions. This is the Ring of Fire. And these are all underwater volcanoes that I haven't mapped out. Don't think I did many other than Tamu. Tamu Massif. This volcano is bigger than Olympus Mons on Mars. But not according to the official records. Blah blah blah. Okay. Where were we? So that's earthquake areas for you. African Rift, Italy, those two are dead. That one as well. Like there's small volcanoes all over Europe, but nothing that is active or anything. Volcanic islands in the Atlantic. There's also like small volcanoes in the UK, as far as I'm aware. Of course, Iceland. But this is not really an active project or anything. Just a pet thing I did in like a couple of days. Earthquake zones. Next. Yeah, I agree. It's a divide by box thinking. Are you globe, flat? Yeah, I like to think for myself, and that's why I made up the skull. I found it way more entertaining. I was inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy. Nowhere. Knowhere. Elon is an actor like all of them. Werner von Braun, NASA wrote a book, The Race to Mars. The main character is Elon. I agree. It's all actors, and it's all to keep us distracted, preferably afraid. In this order: afraid, confused, angry. Because in those states of mind, you are more easily guided into what they want you to do. They being very broad terminology, but you can fill that in for yourself. Are the tectonic plates real? Well, if Earth is a very different shape from what we're told, I don't know. And really, I don't, but they tell you, and this is science, okay, Science tells you all kinds of things about how this ball we're on is supposedly what this ball is supposedly made up of. And how do they know that? How have they determined that inside of this massive ball of water with some land on it, there is an enormous boiling core that has solidified slowly over time and left us with this? And it's magnetic, because gravity, yo. The deepest hole I know of, and that's what they tell. I mean, probably there's deeper holes, but I don't know. But the deepest hole we're told of is Kola Super Deep. And that's somewhere here. I think I marked it out. Kola Super Deep. There you go. That is the location where they drilled the deepest hole known. You know, the super deep borehole. Plus 12 kilometers. That is, I think, 8 miles ish, 7 something ish miles. I'm not going to calculate that, but around that. So 7 kilometers deep, 7 miles deep. Let's take the thingy that makes lines for us and put that somewhere and make that 7.5 kilometers, 12 kilometers was it long. Almost 7, 6, 7, 7, 12. There. Okay. See that little yellow line? That's how deep they have managed to drill into the core of the Earth. Okay? Point to point. Zoom out. Sorry? And by that you have determined what exactly? That's a load of bollocks. Wank. Nonsense. This one place on Earth tells us all of the stuff and how our Earth is composed? Or did they really just, like, stick their finger into their mouth and went like, yes, that must be it? Science sounds very biblical to me at this point. And that is, no offense to everybody that might believe in God. But, it's a story. They don't know jack shit. One little line, 12 kilometers deep. Complete nonsense. Hey, let's see. Some questions. Elon is an actor. Can you show him the force lines map I sent? Is that? Yeah, I can. That ties more to the earthquake stuff. Sure. Let me see. Let me put the volcanoes on and then yours as well. Let's geocrack. This work was done by a friend of mine, whom I'm not sure is wanting to be named, but he mapped out all of the big cracks and patterns he recognized on Earth of a particular shape. So there's the very evident that everybody has seen working on Google Earth, the one that runs from the North Pole all the way across the Atlantic towards the South Pole. And all of these are pretty much fracture and stress zones on Earth, where you see mountain sides and movement of, or predicted movement of things. Here you go by the, he's not going by the country, he's just following coastal lines here. And they come out in these triangular patterns. This might actually like tie somewhat to what Aurorian was asking about, in a sense. This might be stuff they put on old maps as well, knowing these or seeing and notifying these patterns. Let's see. Where are we? Are tectonic plates real? I don't know. Elon, more Elon. Let's see. Mapped out some of the zodiac within the moon. That doesn't surprise me one bit. Not one bit. Freeman. The Skull Planet, yeah, you were in chat for me waffling about that for a good while, Twilight. Dutch Sin says his proof of the globe is the 5 star forts in the southern hemisphere make an equal pentagon around the South Pole. The 5-star forts in the southern hemisphere. So I'm sort of assuming he means Cape Town, and then you have the star forts at Valdivia in Chile. New Zealand has star forts. Australia is a great big question mark. I don't know. And then what leaves that? That was 3, right? Cape Town, Valdivia. That's the southernmost star forts I have. Let me put that map on. It makes it a bit clearer for you guys. There you go. So these are the star forts at Valdivia. Then we have South Africa. And New Zealand. I like Dutch for the earthquake work he does. He's pretty fucking spot on when it comes to that stuff. I really respect him for that, but I've seen some of his Star Fort search work, and he recognizes patterns just like I do. He does pattern recognition, and he's pretty good at that. Possibly better than I am. But he sees star shapes, and he doesn't see star forts. If I start, like, drawing up and making real all of the stuff that I've seen on Earth, I think you get somewhat lost in translation with a whole lot of people. So that's why I'm like earlier in this stream I mentioned that like I have well over 20,000 markers, but it's not all star forts. It's fortified buildings, cities, and castles all over the world, and they do not all adhere to the star pattern. The thing is, if you have a bit of a name and a reputation, people tend to run with it and like make things up. That's okay. It's a natural habit of people to do so. I don't blame anybody, but be really careful with what you put out there and distribute as being truth or fact. Because like if you just go by what you see here, you'd say like, wow, that's a whole lot of star forts in America. I don't know. I mapped out forts. So these towns could well have had just nothing but a wooden wall with a gate in it that, quote unquote, protected them from the natives. And that's it. And they called it their fort. That's what I map out. I map out fortifications all over the world. Okay, back to questions. I'm running behind, aren't I? South Africa, my compass still points north. Yeah. That's one of those things that really makes you go like, huh? A gold leaf map with the Great Lakes. That's pretty awesome. Sorry, skull idea, interesting. Check out biogeology in the world's landmass. Gaia's in lotus position. Yeah, I've looked at Earth in various ways like that. I have a folder called Dragon Drawings where I uncover a whole bunch of stuff that looks like they could be really big creatures. So, yeah, I'll give one, and this is not even my own find. I have to credit my friend Mike for that one. Africa, and I have to put the borders off because that makes it better. There you go. Doesn't Africa sort of somewhat resemble a Saint Bernard puppy that is begging for a cookie that it's being handed out? Spain is the cookie, and then Africa is the Saint Bernard puppy lifting its paw up, getting the cookie. That's that, right? Think about that for a while. Okay, let's see. Her abdomen is Asia and her legs are Africa. Okay, see, that's another way you can look at it, you know, like the cradling fetus. Another funny one, and at that point I stop with the speculation. I'll go back to the questions in the chat. Look at Italy. This is Italy. It stops at this mountain range, just for those not in the know. So look at Italy, and then we're going to New Zealand. Isn't that a pair of legs? Right, let me see. Asia, legs, Africa, legs. We live in a bubble, in more ways than once. In more ways than one, yeah, for sure. We do. It is one giant, great big dream, a matrix, whatever you want to call it. Your reality, right? That's why I'm sort of like free in. You make of this stuff what you want to make of it. It's your reality. What doesn't run through? Oh, not one of the lines runs through Antarctica. Yeah, I did notice that before. That is interesting for sure. But we're not going back to those for now. They will be brought up. Let's see. Am I losing it now? One or more of his star forts were in the ocean. From whom? Mine? Yeah, there are some on islands. And they might have... Oh, if you mean the big blue ones... that's funny. Those big blue ones, they're not star forts. They're a legend. That's why I put it next to it. So that's where all of the colors are explained, and some credit and thank you to the people that I've worked with, and that's about that. Oh no, don't want copyright. That's my alarm. Never mind that. Okay, back to that. So that's not in the ocean. That's just a legend. In South Africa, Cape Town, Star Fort, the street view shows the circular structure in the corner of the point left. Yeah. We'll go street viewing at some point in the future for sure. But half an hour ago I said I'd make it half an hour, and I do want to at least answer all of these questions before anything else. I saw something about... yeah, I'm in New Zealand. Where is the Star Fort? Please tell me. Well, if you're on the North Island, you're lucky. Then there is 3 pretty close to Auckland. They're all small and nothing spectacular. But they are star forts nonetheless. And then one here that doesn't show as well, but you can still see, if you follow the line, you can still see one of the bastion shapes being somewhat intact. It's all earthwork forts. There is no brick involved in these. And I'm just showing the star-shaped ones, because otherwise we'll spend another 15-20 minutes discussing this. And then the last one. Oh wait, there's more star shaped stuff. This is a fairly well-known one. Well maintained by the government. And that's a smaller readout. And that's it as far as the actual star-shaped stuff on New Zealand. There's a bunch more like little forts here and there. We'll probably go over them at some point. So that's for New Zealand. Hey, realize the text I put is searchable. Blah blah blah. Definite star forts and castles in the oceans. Divers find them all the time. Yes, I have some marked in the ocean as well. You say that, and I realize that yeah, there is a couple in the Netherlands that I know of that have sunken into the sea. That one north of the islands, and that one just off the coast. I actually have a drawing of this one. Will come up again at some point. There's more like that. So yeah, I do agree with that. They are sunken. There are sunken examples. Let's see. Sea risen star forts were built. Said about Netherlands. 600 meters under the sea in the Caribbean. Yep. There's the Yonaguni Monument. Close to Taiwan. It's another one that sits on the water. Is Stellium in the chat, or are you just acknowledging Stellium? In which case you should acknowledge Stellium. And if you haven't, visit his channel, because the man has very, very interesting stuff to tell you. Place where the star is in the middle of South Dakota has tunnels. I've been in them multiple times because my dad worked there. Western South Dakota. Yahoo! Western South Dakota. Borders. Help me out. Pattern recognition. Dakota. And then the one, sorry. Western South Dakota. Fort Meade Museum. So, alas, there is nothing to see here. Maybe the museum has something of a map or photos of the old fort. I should at some point set up a mail for if any of you have stuff that you want to share and send. At the moment I don't, but that's a thought for the future. Where are we? In the middle of South Dakota has tunnels underneath. So there's two. Red stars used to be fortifications, but there's not a whole lot to see. You could say that's a star shape, but I'm really not willing to go there because farmers, modern stuff, I'll just mark it out with a red star. I have some evidence that it's set there. And Fort Sully 1. So if these two are connected by tunnels, they already run under a river. Again, defeating that point I made earlier. We cannot build a tunnel under the water. Alright, next. Bit of a reach. Great stream, back to the drill press. Hey, thanks for being here, dude. Much appreciated. Like I said, I really appreciate the questions, sending me on a search. They often lead to new stuff found. So, whilst I haven't gone into great detail, I think a lot tonight, but we'll see in the future. Like, often questions lead to answers, lead to more questions, and lead to new stuff found. Thanks for the awesome show. I'm not. Yeah, I'm pretty much sorting this out at 10, which is in 22 minutes. It's utmost time when I'll quit, and I'll have been on for what, 3 hours or so. Let me see. Is there a way to access your pins? No, not at the moment. Because it's too disorganized. You may have come into the stream a bit later. Earlier I mentioned, if you want to see the Starfort work in great detail, do visit Colm Gibney's channel. The man has an amazing piece of mapping work done as far as Starforts go, and that's just Starforts. Again, this map has all kinds of stuff on it, and at some point I will publicize it and give it out, but it needs work to get organized. Because if one thing, I really don't want to spread misinformation in a realm that is already intentionally filled with so much gunk. So it's not available because I want it organized, and that takes, as you can see, a lot of work. So Colm Gibney again has a Starfort file with 1500 Starforts in it, and most all of them have some information about them under the pin. And if I would go about that, the file would crash most all of your PCs, phones, and whatever. You cannot run Google Earth with this thing fully on. I have a pretty insane spec PC with the exception of the graphics card, and it doesn't keep up. If I flick on all of this stuff, it just makes it slow. It's the program, Google Earth itself, that just cannot handle it. My file, as in just the fortification work, is 3 or 4 times as big as the program Google Earth is. That's just all of the pin marks. Okay, anything else? Let me see. I live a couple of miles from Fort Meade. Older than they say. Yeah, a lot of the fortifications in the United States, especially along the coastlines, and that's not just in the US, but the US is a nice example of them. They make so little sense in a war perspective. Why would you build these batteries along the coastline? Like California, especially San Fran, has a whole bunch of them. Excuse me. Why would you build this? To defend against an invading fleet. I bring this point up earlier in the episode stream. Wouldn't you just land where there's no fortifications then? And attack that way and just ignore all of the big cannons and stuff? Why would you fortify the harbor to New York if you have the biggest fleet on Earth? Maybe not in those days, but still. That's what you get when you put roads on in the United States. Dear Lord. And this is just interstates and stuff. Highways, freeways. This is not even the roads leading to your houses. It's insane. The Netherlands is just as crazy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making. Anyways. Where are we? Fort Meade. Yeah, that's definitely. To Washington State. Yes, I could. Let me flick roads off. Places. Yeah, places is good. Washington State, middle to the east of the state. So, do you mean you want to see the... Because that's not a thing we can see. The red stars are gone. There's just some evidence of them on the wiki. The town is called Ford, or there is a historical marker telling us it was at some point a fortified place. Battery is a funny word, isn't it? I agree. I think the best one in Washington is the small forts at the entrance to Seattle, to the ports. Again, batteries. Why would you call cannons batteries? So we have asked this question many years ago, and you'll have to look through the old live streams that are on this channel. There is a lot of old material available in which a lot of stuff is discussed that to the day is brought up by the research community as wow. And I'm just saying, like, yeah, I was talking about that stuff with friends 5 years ago. Can we move on now? Like, that's probably also part of how they ruined the quote unquote Great Tartary. They took it and just ran with it, and then all of a sudden the whole world was Tartary, and star forts and it's just not very very true. As you can see, star forts actually stop with the Russian expansion drift, which is historically pretty well documented. There's lines of fortifications. Let me put these borders off again, it's so annoying. Lines of fortifications and outposts. Again, black stars are not real star forts, they're just my guesswork. They look like star forts, or there's something interesting on the map that could tie to them. What I have evidence of is all of the colored ones. There's heaps and heaps of maps depicting all of these fortifications. But they stop at the Russian expansion drift. Right when they hit China, Mongolia, the Persian lands, because a lot of these are not star forts either, they're fortifications. This is another famous one at this point. Initially people thought that this one was buried in sand, but it's actually collapsed downward. It's another one of those pay a little bit attention to the research work you're doing, because there is an altimeter right here at the bottom right on Google Earth. You see where 161 meters where the fort is visible, and then where it collapsed it's 68 meters. There's not a mountain covering this fort. There's not a mud flood running over this fort. No, it just collapsed because this used to be a coastline. Nature is cruel to forts, yo. Let me see. Where are we in chat? Battery energy. Protection against giant creatures. That's another one I speculated earlier. That could well be part of the Chinese walls. Were they there to defend against the people? Or against something that came from the north that was just awful? I mean, if you take inhabitants in this particular region that these barbaric hordes were supposed to come from, because as you can see, the walls already start in Mongolia. And again, most of these cities, the square walled cities, were built BC. That is 1200 years before. And this is again according to history, before Mongolia. So what were these cities defending from the barbarians in the north? Hardly any people live here. Even today. You look up the stats for the regions of Russia. There's 10,000 people in this area, which is pretty much as big as Alaska. 10,000 people, all of it. The biggest sort of, it's not a country, but it's a, what we call it, an autonomous prefecture on Earth, has 20,000 people living in it. What were these barbaric hordes coming from the north, going through deserts and mountain ranges and the whole shebang to attack a bunch of people here? It's a good question. I don't know. I just map it out again, but it's funny to speculate. There's just speculation. That's what it is. Again, the Great Tartary too, which I mentioned just a little bit before here. What is the Great Tartary? The Mongols called themselves Tatars, and the Tatars still have Tatarstan in Russia, but that is actually west of the Ural Mountains. There is some evidence of Tatars living in the Crimea and then being moved by the regime of Stalin to further east, like fuck off, this is our land type of thing. Like, we don't care about you, go away. If not, we'll kill you. We'll probably kill you anyways. So what the walls were for, I don't know. Pancake Fund suggests flood protection. Like maybe it was built for giant floods, and if long floods come over land, they inevitably bring shitloads of dirt, making it look like mud flood. Let's see. Where are we going? Where are we? Battery. Hello, first time watching your channel in this video. Though in case you speak another language, bonjour, konnichiwa, ni hao, good day, hola, aloha, yapiri. And a good day to you, sir. In my case, konbanwa, because it's late here, almost 10. Bit of Japanese, English, Dutch, little bit of German. I understand most French, but I do not know how to speak it. I speak a tiny little bit of French, but it is très terrible. Next. Are we just mapping forts or defenses? Everything, forts and defenses. Mostly old stuff, though. Like the more modern stuff that we know of, I have a different file for. And I might be working on that publicly sometime in the future, but not today. We're close to 10 as it is, and I still haven't gone through all of the questions, or have I? If you sprinkle sand on top of a resonator, play the correct frequency, yeah, you can make star. Yes. Never depicted on maps before the 1500s. The pyramids 2800 BC. Martin and Jason from Archaics was surprised the Chinese wall was built on Roman miles and road width. I don't follow either of them, so I wouldn't know. I really don't watch a lot of people in this community, because I found that a lot of them go into speculation, and you might have read a whole bunch of books, and you might have a shitload of knowledge. But have you been there? Have you seen it actually doing what you proclaim it does? I haven't. Like star forts for my part could have been Tesla energy generators, pumping stations, and all of it. But I haven't seen any proof of it, so as far as that goes, it's speculation. And it's fine to speculate, but show me proof and I'm with you. And I'll start looking for more evidence of similar things. But up till that point, I'm just mapping stuff out. I find stuff by endlessly, literally, because if you haven't seen me work, and that might bore you all to death, because working is basically zooming in and out endlessly. Literally, I find stuff by going over, like an example here is this is where my section ends. I don't know where it goes from here, because it splits. The pattern I'm following splits, so where does it go? I don't know. Hello, cat. How are you, dear? I don't know, so I just follow the lines. This line seems to end and then go two ways, so that's nothing. Where's this one go? Oh, following this line. If I can't see the line, if it just dissipates, I'll try and use the old images, and that gives us a bit clearer image. There you go. That just leaves 1, 2, 3 possible routes to follow from this line onwards, and I'm not even sure, because this is a black line, if this is a wall I'm following. I don't know, it just could be a road, that's why it's black. I am sure that is a section of wall because it ties to one of these little forts. And every time you see one of these little square things, ties to a wall. That's without fail. Without fail. What is modern? What is modern? I'd say modern basis, like by like the 1900s, like when they started like tanks and modern warfare and that type of stuff. But yeah, but back to that line map thingy. See, I get distracted easily. And then I zoom out. So I follow lines, and if I can't follow the line any longer, like this definitely looks like somebody has been driving with this car. You got the two lines going on. And literally, why would you follow a road? This is all just steps. And I'm supposed to find a wall within all of these patterns. So that takes a long time. Zooming in, zooming out. That could be it. Because it runs right over the plateau here. Ignores everything. See? That edge here. Straight in, ignores everything, and that's what the Chinese walls tend to do. They ignore everything and go straight through whatever the fuck they're going. You have a mountain here? Okay, we're going straight over the fucker. Ha! There you go. But again, this could turn out to be nothing. It could be big fat nothing burger and I'm following a road again. But there's some diggings, it seems here, that could be a little remnant of a wall. I don't know. So I follow. And that is me looking for Chinese walls. I'm looking for squares in the desert to see if that is anything. Because again, if you find a square fortification in the middle of the desert, it ties to a wall. Instantly. That has been proven to me without fail. Everywhere you see squares in the middle of nowhere, it ties to a wall. I am Kairos out in California. I remember I am Kairos. The name rings a bell. Out in California, has been finding great stuff. He goes out, takes videos, drone footage. There's been a lot of guys on the west coast of both Americas showing up, doing really interesting work. Pillars of the Past, I think he's in Peru. He finds ancient cities on a regular, just like by exploring Google Earth, and then he goes to site. I really cannot express how much I appreciate people that go on site and show the stuff for what it is. And what it is now and what it has turned into and what you see if you would actually bother to go there. This is why I don't really visit star forts, because they're really boring on the ground. It's lines of dirt in the soil and you can't even determine the star shape being there. Because you're too small in comparison to that huge star to make that distinction, unless you have the image in your head and you know what you're looking at, but you cannot determine it as such by your own views. Go to a big star city, the biggest thing you'll see is one of the bastions you can stand on, and they are huge in comparison to you. But yeah, there's been really good stuff out on the west coast. There's another guy, the track planner, I think he's called. The one downside with both of these guys, and I respect them for doing so, is they do not divulge the locations they're looking at, because they go on site to like really historical places, remnants of natives, and they respect the place for what it is. So many people wouldn't. So I appreciate them for doing it, but it is a downside because I have to find all of these sites myself. And then I am sort of like half and half, like, am I mapping out the destruction of these things? Am I? Because, you know, I'm putting all of these walls down by working off of the wiki map of the Chinese walls. I just look at the broad shape of what they have mapped out there and from that I try and pinpoint the locations and work from there and try and find the walls. But by mapping them out in precise detail, am I causing their future destruction? Because I know that, like, Google has access to all of my stuff if they so desire. Am I mapping out the future destruction of all of history? Or am I mapping out something and preserving history? It's a conundrum, isn't it? Everything that has been destroyed doesn't really matter, but like that's gone anyways. We can only see those on old maps and other stuff that we have on the internet, which is another very sort of limited source. If you haven't like saved your digital files and they shut off the internet, it's lost to you. If a big EMP blows up, all of it's gone. It's another thing to realize. Don't give away your books. Keep your books, your physical books. Even if you don't read them, keep them. But yeah, we're past the 10-hour mark that I sort of set myself. So I think we're gonna call it quits for today. Is there anyone with a burning question that needs answered? I'll give you like a couple of minutes and then I'll shut this thing down. Have some me time. I'll be back soon enough. There's plenty of stuff to be shown and mapped. And as I said before, once I get this thing working properly as it does now, I'll just do this on a regular because I'm doing it anyways. But it'll be more work-like in at points in the future. This is just demonstrating. I'll probably just mark that out for people. Like, this is showing stuff and mapping stuff if you don't like the endless boring zooming in and out of places. You can choose not to watch. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Alright, well, thank you all for watching. Much appreciated. And I hope to see you again soon. Catch you later.